Hey, everybody. Welcome to Conejo Valley Visionaries, a new podcast spotlighting the people and stories behind some of your favorite Conejo Valley small businesses. I'm your host, Christina Denstead. Today, we're speaking with Darlynn Childress, a parent and life coach and the owner of Calm Mama Coaching. After unsuccessfully trying traditional parenting strategies, Darlynn took a deep dive into learning everything she could about calm and compassionate approaches to misbehavior. Utilizing her background as a teacher, Darlynn then created the Calm Mama process. And now 10 plus years later, Darlynn's worked with hundreds of parents to help transform their families. In our conversation today, Darlynn talks about the grassroots way she got started, the 4 tenets of the Calm Mama process, and how she's grown her business from one-to-one consulting and adding group programs and even a podcast. With that, please enjoy my conversation with Darlynn Childress. Hey, Darlynn, welcome to Conejo Valley Visionaries. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast for 3 reasons. So first of all, we've been focusing on food-related businesses. Our last 2 interviews have been restaurants and a baking business, and I'm so thrilled that you're going to be our first non-food related guest. So thank you for that. Secondly, you came nominated from the Conejo Valley Visionaries Instagram community, which I absolutely love. People are already engaged and sharing who their favorite local small businesses are. So kudos to that. And then lastly, I am a parent. And I am so interested to hear how and why you became a parenting coach. I know that we could all use it, so I'm thrilled to learn more about that. So welcome.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Christina. It's really fun to be on this podcast and talk Conejo Valley, talk business, talk parenting, because I love all those things. I love the Conejo Valley, I love parenting, and I love talking business. So it's really fun for me.
Yay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Okay. So I like to go sort of back when we start these conversations. So I am curious, what did you study in school and what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah. Well, I was a teacher before I was a parent. So I taught 8th grade in Culver City. We used to live on the west side. And I was Culver City Middle School. I taught U.S. history and social studies, as they call it. And so, growing up, I didn't really say, oh, I can't wait to grow up and be a teacher. That wasn't really, I always knew I was going to be a teacher, but not necessarily in school. I kind of thought I was going to be a college professor and teach history was my dream, in college. And I was a history major. I studied medieval Christianity, super niche-y.
That is incredible. What drew you to history to begin with?
Well, I wanted to go, when I first went to college, I was a business major, which makes me laugh now that I run a business, but I just wanted to figure out a way to make money. It was how does a person, I was so young and dumb and immature and,
I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable though.
Yeah, I was I want to go to college and learn how to make money. And I took one business class and within a day, I was like, this is awful. Okay. It makes me chuckle now because I have a business, but I wasn't attracted to the concepts of learning about economics or, budgets or whatever.
It's pretty dry. It's not the exciting parts of business.
No. And I took this history class and it just rocked my world because I had never learned about history from the lens of social justice or anything like that. And I was like, wait, what? There's another way to view history? There's another side of the story. And that's actually really a big part of being a life coach is reframing things, seeing things from the other side.
Wow, okay.
But as a college student, I was like, oh my God, there's so much to learn. There's so much I didn't know. There's so many things that I had no idea, happened in the past. So that's why I studied history. And then when I was a young woman, I was like, well, I didn't do very well in the GRE. I was like, I guess I'm not going to get my master's degree at this time in history. I didn't know Latin and German and all these weird languages. So I was like, well, I guess I'll be a teacher. Yeah. So I got my teaching credential and taught for several years at high school and middle school. And then I became a mom.
About medieval studies in 8th grade, is that covered then?
Well, no, that's 7th grade. So I was a U.S. history teacher and taught mostly the Revolutionary War and that kind of thing. But anyway.
Those are impactful. I feel like those are impactful lessons to learn then, but definitely different maybe than what you originally thought you would be doing.
Yes. And now I do teach adults, right, as a parenting coach.
Of course.
So sometimes I'm like, oh, I am kind of in the on the path that I thought, teaching adults something.
What do you like about teaching? Like, what is it that, like as a coach, how does that frame, what does like teaching mean in that construct?
Yeah. I just love, like, I was just thinking about when we're talking about teaching middle school and just how much I learned about what it takes to learn something new and what you need to scaffolding this concept and teaching of like, where are you and where do you want to go? What is it that you want to, master? And that's a big part of my work as a parenting coach. It's like, well, I help parents who want to be gentle, connected parents and, practice these philosophies around compassion and connection, but then they don't really have a map for that because they weren't raised that way, or, the society kind of is a more traditional model. And so we're all like, flying blind.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a teacher who has a path, a plan, they come in and then they guide you towards the thing that you want to be learning about. So I love taking, something that's complicated, that's confusing, and making it simple and accessible and interesting. And that's what I was doing with eighth graders. That's what I do with
Yeah.
parenting. I've done that with many, many things throughout my life.
I mean, that's a very unique skill set and something, giving people that framework or, thinking of a way to meet the end goal is really valuable. And I can say as a parent, especially when you are in it, it is hard to imagine that there is a way out of certain things. So, I'm curious, at what point did the idea for you mentioned that you were a high school teacher, or sorry, eighth grade teacher, and then you became a parent.
Mhm.
So did you keep teaching while you were became a parent, or what was that transition like?
No, I really just really wanted to be home with my kids, and we could afford that lifestyle. And so I have two children, they're 2 years apart. And so I became a mom and, was just home with my little ones
Mhm.
and my son, my oldest one, who's now 19, and he went through Conejo Valley schools and, we're in Las Virgenes. He graduated from Agoura last year. And when he was younger, like 4 or 5, he was really kind of out of control. He was just like a wild Tasmanian devil, and I didn't know what to do. I was really overwhelmed and it was like timeouts and takeaways and I didn't want to spank or be physical, but I could be really aggressive with my voice and get kind of just showing up as the mom I didn't think I'd ever be. I never thought I would be like rageful or
Yes.
overwhelmed. Like, I don't know. It was like I was a really calm teacher.
No, I think a lot of us can relate to that. Kids bring out like a different side.
Mhm.
It's really unexpected sometimes.
Yep, yep. So when I uh, found myself just completely out of my league, I was like, I need help, and I started to like go to parenting classes, like go to
Mhm.
workshops and stuff and learn tools and techniques and things like that. And so as I started to learn things, my natural instinct is to share what I learn and to tell my friends what I know or barely know. And it's part of, I think, my own process of learning something is to teach it. And then I synthesize it in a different way and it becomes more embedded in me. So as I learned things, I started sharing them. And my friends were like, "What? Tell me more." Like, they're like, loved it. They're like, "You go to parenting classes and read parenting books and then come back and give us like
Right,
the cliff."
you did all the hard work. Were all your friends having kids around the same age or like at the same
Mhm.
time? Oh, okay, but oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, you were the
I
queen
became like a
bee.
guru on accident
Yes,
just to my
yeah,
own friend group. Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
like a
And
community built in already.
yes, and like my natural gifting and skill set is to like synthesize information, make it simple, make it digestible, do all that stuff. I didn't really realize that I was necessarily good at that and that that's what was happening, kind
Yeah.
of know later. And so then I was like, well, I want to learn this one type of parenting philosophy. And so I went and became like a parent educator in this philosophy. And I came back and I said to my kids went to Mariposa and I said to the principal at the time, I said, "Hey, I'm going to learn some parenting stuff. Can I teach it at the school?"
Hmm.
And the PFA president was there and the principal, and they're like, "Well, why would we let you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know, because it's cool." They were like, "What's in it for us?" or whatever. And I was like, "Well, what about if I charge like $20 and I give it to the school and, you guys just keep the money and like win-win." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Cool." PFAs are always like, "How do we make money?"
Sure. And so your goal was to just reach an audience of parents, basically, and you're willing to do it. And like, that's a smart way to go to the school to reach them.
I really was like, I want to help people. I
Yeah,
wasn't not even really thinking like, I'm going to launch a business.
right. Yeah. But it's very smart. Like, what a strategic decision like that came around like subconsciously.
Yeah, like you go where the need is. I mean, now I do like, love to do parent education at schools and I do them for free most of the time because I want to build my audience and things like that, like, behind the curtain reasons. But
Yeah.
in the beginning, I really was like, I'm learning some cool stuff. The philosophy was introduced to me by the principal. So I had like went, and became an expert in that topic. And I was like, let me tell your parents about it.
Yeah.
And so there was like 25 moms came to that first class and we were in this tiny little room in on campus and I just started teaching parenting from there.
Hmm.
And it was almost like the, Avon lady version or the Tupperware mom version. I was just like, do you have 6 friends who want to learn about parenting? And they would get their 6 friends in the living room and I would come and teach them.
They're like, yes, please. Thank you. That's
Yeah, like, instead of selling jewelry or, skincare or whatever, I was, like, selling parenting and just that's how I started, just doing classes in people's living rooms, you know,
that's
and it
amazing. And so did
began from
you
there.
have a business plan in mind? It sounds like it started pretty organically, but at that point, did you have a vision of
No,
what the business would be?
no, I didn't even know I had a business
Yeah.
until, like, this was in 2012, and in 2019, like 7 years later, I was like, "I think I have a business. I wanna sell some things." Like, it happened because I wanted to sell a group program,
Okay.
and I did not know how to do that at all because I really actually didn't know how to sell anything at that time, and
Hmm.
it was just all word of mouth, and I didn't have a structured offer or, like, all these business terms that now I know really well. I
Yes.
didn't know anything about that. I remember in 2015 someone referring to me as a parenting coach and I was like, well, that's cool, I like that name. But I didn't really think everything I was doing was actually focused on writing a book. So I was like doing research groups and focus groups and all of these groups to build my own philosophy out, which was already kind of inside of me, but I wanted to like see if it worked,
Yeah.
right? And teach it a bunch of times. And so now I do have that. I call it the Calm Mama process.
Right.
And,
I'm excited to hear.
yeah, it's a formalized framework for parenting. And when tried to sell the group program, I realized, well, I actually need to build up like selling more on one on one and build up my one on one coaching practice.
Mhm.
And um, I did. That happened really fast. At one point, I had 30 clients a week. It was
Whew.
intense. Yeah. And I have an online business
One-on-one
model.
coaching.
Yeah. So 1 hour sessions or 50-minute sessions. And I
Okay.
had 30 sessions a week with different moms and dads and
Mhm.
couples. And yeah, it was really a lot of work while I was also building towards a group program.
Okay.
So at one point, 2020, 2021, it was pandemic days. My kids were home and I was like just on Zoom for 30 hours a week talking to moms.
My
Yeah.
goodness. Well, that's probably when they needed it even more than ever. But
Yes.
also, then I'm sure being at home and having to deal with all that came with that time period was also you had to really utilize maybe your advice during those times too. Well,
Yes.
does the calm mama process apply just to the toddler age, or is it something that, or do you mind explaining a little bit, or how would you describe that process if you want to share the 4 parts of it, or however you best want to describe it? Because I'm curious if it's like just for toddlers, or do you apply it to teenagers and older kids as well?
Yeah, no, it's a parenting framework. So it's one that you learn and then you take with you for the rest of the time that you're a parent, which is what I really like about that. And that's what I needed because I needed to know how to handle like you're like, these parenting moments where you're like, I don't know how to get out of this. And I
Mhm.
call those tricky parenting moments. And it's like, what are the steps that I need to go through in order to move this moment forward or figure out this pattern and change this behavior or whatever it is. So the 4 parts are calm, connect, limit, set, correct.
Okay.
And they're always applicable because they're really about parenting. And the first is calm, and that's all about us. So I teach a lot in my programs about managing the parent's nervous system
Mm.
and their stress response and how we view behavior, And how we tend to think about behavior is that they're disrespectful, they're wrong, I've got to fix it. If I don't stop this, they're going to never learn, and we get all kind of caught in our head.
Yes. Spiral.
And so reframing that, really kind of understanding behavior comes from feelings. And when we understand that our child is expressing their emotion, it helps us not get so triggered.
Mhm.
If we do get triggered, I give you tools to calm yourself. So in any given parenting moment, if you're able to regulate your own nervous system as an adult, you're going to be able to manage a child's nervous system and their stress and their big feelings and their desires and their like lack of wanting to like listen to you, all of that better.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
so it's like the foundation is the calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next one was correct, you said?
Wouldn't that be nice? No, that's
Yeah,
the old traditional. That's
sorry.
traditional parenting. Go
Yeah.
straight to correction.
Okay. I know. I'm like, oh, how do we make this faster? No.
Exactly. That's like that's the real, it's funny that your brain went there, because that is sort of like, I'm going to correct this behavior is sort of a traditional parenting model. And so in my program, I teach connection first. So
Okay.
sometimes people say connect before correct. And I have a bunch of tools around how to be empathetic with your kids, how to actually help them not uh, dump all of their feelings on their sibling or on you, or kick a chair or whatever,
Mhm.
and giving them tools beyond just saying, are you sad?
I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, because that's what we're kind of taught now to do, is like name the emotion and help them with their feelings. But I noticed that myself and parents get stuck with what now what?
Mhm.
Like, how do you actually teach a kid to emotionally regulate?
Yeah.
So that's connection, is
Okay.
really giving kids those tools. And then limit setting is boundary work. So calm,
Mhm.
connect, limit set. I teach a very specific way of setting limits instead of rules or commands. Like, so a
Okay.
command would be pick up your shoes, right?
Mhm.
Brush your teeth, uh, eat, 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 right?
Everything on your plate, yes.
Yeah, right? So, we say it nicely, we don't say it like a command, but the brain interprets it as a command for our children. So I teach a different way of communicating. It's like, "You're welcome to leave this table after you finished eating."
Mm,
And just
like giving them the choice or putting on them a little
yeah, it
bit?
actually gives the brain just like "Oh, I can leave the table when I'm done." It
Right.
accesses a part of the executive function part of the brain, instead of pushing them into like fight, flight, or, emotional reaction. So when you learn this model for every scenario, it's like a script that I teach.
Mhm.
And then you just get so much better at setting limits. And then the kid's like, "Oh, I have to finish eating before I leave? Okay."
Right. It doesn't seem, like, as bad because you're not telling them to do it, basically.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
reverse psychology or something,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
very effective. And then if our children make a mistake, like they leave before dinner's done, then maybe dinner's done and they have a hungry belly, and that's really hard.
Mhm.
And that triggers another big feeling cycle or like parenting moment. So we go back to calm, go back to connect,
Yeah.
and we usually leave it there, because once you connect a little bit, the feelings leave and they're like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna have a big breakfast tomorrow."
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's why it
great.
works in every age, every stage,
Yeah.
because it really is our way of being, instead of, you know, trying to trick a 2-year-old into getting their, you know, taking the blue cup,
Yeah.
or getting a teenager to, be home by curfew. Like,
Mhm.
it's the same process that you learn once and then you just get better and better at it. So I love that about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and seems yeah, the fact that it's applicable and no matter when, but also repeatable too, like in the moments.
Yep.
So, that's amazing. And so with this process, now your business is a coaching business, is that right? So it's
Yep.
like the business, are you still doing one-on-one
hmm
sessions and then you also offer group programs?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. And that's
Yeah.
where you give people the tools or, I think I wonder if other people are curious, like what's the difference between coaching and therapy? Or is it both
Ah,
things in one?
yeah, yeah. I think about therapy, and maybe a therapist might disagree, but I think about therapy as like having someone who helps you understand the story of you, like how you got here and like what brought you to this place in your life, and unpacking some of that and really unshaming a lot of that story and giving you a lot of healing. I do some of that work
Mhm.
in our program, but most of the time that's therapy. And then coaching is really taking you where you are now and helping you get where you want to go.
Okay.
And some therapists do that too,
Yeah.
but I really see I'm very specifically focused on parents and particularly moms. And it's like, we're going to assume that you are, mentally stable and well, and like, you have some basic skills to manage yourselves. And we're going to just help you thrive at that point, like moving you towards that mom you want to be, having that peaceful home you desire, getting out of that chaos. So the tools that I teach, they do help with anxiety, and they do help with um, feelings of frustration and overwhelm and all of those. But if you're stuck really in like a depressive or anxious space, that
Mhm.
might be better. You might be better served by a therapist to get to a better baseline. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How long are do you usually stick with a parent?
Yeah. Well, some of my parents have been with me for a really long
Yeah.
time because they just love the support.
Yeah.
But the way that I structure my program now is that I have a 6-week class. So I just think about like parent education, the classic parent education models. You take a parenting class, you learn some foundational tools. So I teach a 6-week parenting class, but it's within a 4-month program.
Okay.
So you learn the class, you learn the material. In 6 weeks, we meet on Zoom once a week for 6 weeks in a row. I teach it live. I have an online class, but I found that people are really busy and nobody really wants to spend time online, especially post pandemic. We all want to, like, obviously not even be in Zoom, but if we are, we want to be in a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I teach it live with me. I'm right there answering questions. And then my program, it's that you get access to what I call the Call Mama Club. And in that, you get to book 15-minute private sessions with me every week for 4 months. So they're like mini one-on-ones. Uh, They're they're incredible because we really laser focus on the specifics, like bedtime, hone in, let's get it done. We got 15 minutes, and I give you a script, the limit setting language, we problem solve, all of those things. And so then the people in the program have access to booking those for 4 months as part of the original cost.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
they can stay in the club if they want. And that's a yearly membership.
I've never heard of that model before. Maybe it's out there, but that like 15-minute, like that is a smart amount of time because yeah, it gives you a very, I bet, tactical approach to it. It's like, we're not just discussing everything, like how do we focus in on an issue?
Yeah.
Then you feel like you've accomplished something within that. You probably learned a lot within those short amount of time.
Yeah, and I don't have to do the teaching because the teaching is in that foundational class. So sometimes when someone joins my one-on-one, those are 3 months. And, those are amazing too, because a lot of times like a couple will do that, or someone who really wants to dive deep into the tools, or, they want to understand calm better, or like connection. And if they haven't taken the foundational class, it gets tricky because I'm like, I need to teach you so many things. And then you're
Mhm.
spending time in your one-on-one session learning, but then where it's also very conversational. So
Yes.
it's not I love when people like take the class and then do the one-on-one.
Okay, so that would be your recommended process, like
Yeah,
take
but you
this.
don't have to do one-on-one because you do get it. You get it in the club.
Okay.
Um, because it can be cost prohibitive to work with me just one-on-one at this point.
Now, you mentioned you mostly focus on moms, but I
Yeah.
imagine there's also some interested dads. Is that something that you are seeing more of, or do you really just like find that, the moms are usually the ones who are trying to find this level of support?
Yeah, well, the moms are the one who are watching the Instagram videos and, following all the accounts and
Bookmarking them to remember for when you're in that moment.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And listening to my podcast and things like that. And then they might say to their partner, hey, can you listen to this one episode? Or I got this, this PDF. Can you read it? Um, and so the marketing, it tends to be towards women and towards moms because they're the ones who are actively seeking out the support.
Mhm.
But then there are dads that take the class, and I'm like, you guys are calm mamas. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
you also are, like, because you're also taking on that responsibility of mothering.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been some requests for like a Calm Papa class and stuff, and I'm like, well, we'll get there at some
Yeah.
point.
Tell us about your podcast. How long ago did that come into the business? And then what are your episodes like?
Yeah, so it's called Become a Calm Mama, and I started it in February of 2022. Is that right? Yeah, 2 years ago. So it's been about 2 years, and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. I once saw that most podcasts don't last past 7 episodes.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if you make it past 7, you're like I mean, many don't even go past 3. It's crazy. Like 45% of the podcasts on iTunes are not real. They're like only 3 episodes and nobody ever did anything with them again.
So that's an interesting stat. I had no idea. And you said you just hit your 100th episode, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
I comes out every week on Thursdays. Usually it's 30 minutes of me teaching a concept, a parenting concept. And people who listen, they're like, this is so practical. That's a lot of feedback I get. Like there's so many concepts in parenting, but then not a lot of really foundational tools or scripts or,
mhm.
how do you apply it? I'm so tactile and like strategic as a person. And I want it to like, I want you to have a thing you walk away from that episode with, like a really tangible tool. Um, so, yeah, they're about 30 minutes. I talk about all sorts of parenting things, consequences, how to set limits, how to do connection better, how to avoid permissive parenting. That's a trend we're seeing right now because people are trying to be so focused on emotion
Mm.
that they're not quite sure how to handle when their kid is off track behavior. So,
It's like
talk a
training the
lot about that.
balance of that, right?
Yes, yeah, because we don't want to be mean, right? We don't
Yeah.
want to like hurt our kids, and consequences can feel shameful and can feel mean, and how to do that in a way that feels respectful and kind. Um, that and it doesn't feel shaming or painful or punitive. It's can feel really uncomfortable for parents. So we talk about the uncomfortability of it, and then also the tactile, like the practical parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is so exciting. Congratulations on that. What is there a favorite part of how your business has sort of formed itself? It sounds maybe it's like it's organically happened. And I'm also curious, have you written that book yet? But like, is there a favorite part that you get most excited about? Whether it be your coaching or your program or your podcast?
I so many things I love. I mean, my favorite thing in the world is talking to moms, and particularly when we get to the quiet parts that we don't say out loud, the parts of parenting that are really hard, and what sometimes we've said to our kids that we feel really bad about, or things we've done. And when there's a safe place to unravel that and heal that little internal guilt or shame,
Yeah.
and then get really tools to feel better and not show up that way, that is what I love. And that happens in the group, it happens in the one-on-one, it happens even on Instagram with people like reaching out, just, small changes that they make. But as far as the business itself, I I think that, I mean, any entrepreneur has to experiment to find what really works for them, like as the business owner, and what feels aligned and like what's possible. And of course, I wish I could talk to everybody all the time, but having a group program makes it easier to reach more people and to make it more affordable for people. But that took a long time to figure out for me, as I wanted it to be something that wasn't like you just buy a program that sits on your computer. Um, so I really am proud of what I've created with this hybrid model of a group program with the 15-minute sessions and kind of that support that's group and private together. I love it.
That's incredible and so amazing that you sort of found that way and tested it and ended up working out because yeah, it sounds like you really like the live interaction and if you were offering some sort of recorded version of that, it just wouldn't hit the same for you and probably not for your clients as well.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
it did definitely took a while to get to that place and to create a model that doesn't really exist in the coaching world, especially. Um, so I think that's being innovative and looking at your business and yourself and being willing to take risks and fail. I failed so much in the course of the 10 years I've run this business.
Is
And
there a failure you'd be willing to share?
well, the first group program I launched, um, I barely remember the offer, but I just thought it was gonna 100 people were gonna sign up, like, in a day. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't even know if I had 100 people on my in my audience at the time.
Yeah.
So I definitely had, like, very high expectations, and just crickets, like crickets. I built this online course, and I had this whole marketing campaign and a new website and a new portal and everything. And this was 2015, 2019, 2018, really before there was a lot. No one had heard of Zoom before the
Sure,
pandemic.
of course, yes. It's not a household name that you use every day.
Yeah, and like learning portals and things like that. I had to have one built from scratch and WordPress, and it was just there wasn't these programs that exist now.
Yeah.
And I just put my heart and soul into it, and it was just like nothing,
Yeah,
no action
of
whatsoever.
course.
And I now understand, that I didn't have a big enough audience for that kind of offer. I marketed it poorly, like I didn't know anything.
Mhm.
Um, but it really gave me like the heebie-jeebies about starting a group program for a while. I felt
That's what I was gonna say,
nervous.
how did you recover from that? Because I can imagine that was a sizable investment,
Yeah.
and then not seeing the return you thought, but you are obviously still in business now and successful, so how did you sort of was there something that really made you recover? Is it just your passion for coaching and, like,
Well, no,
keep
I hired a business coach for
Oh,
sure. Yeah,
okay.
I was like, I have something here that's so powerful and so important to me and will help so many people, and I obviously don't know how to get it out there.
Mm,
And it was a huge investment. Like now I've invested, thousands and thousands of dollars in coaching. I think that's one thing as an entrepreneur, I'm very good at parenting. I'm not necessarily good at business.
yeah,
And but I have to get good at business in order to help parents. And I
really.
think, different people that you have out on the podcast, like I'm a good chef, but I don't necessarily know how to run a restaurant or
Yeah.
manage a team, or, we all have these big dreams to impact the world in the way that we want. And there's some skill gaps there to get
Yes,
there.
there are, and I think part of I imagine being an entrepreneur and starting a business is being able to recognize those skill gaps,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes it's hard to do that, and it will require an investment to fill those gaps, but
Mhm.
the reality is there are people out there who are more knowledgeable in those topics, and just like you're coaching parents, like, to have somebody come in and coach you makes
Ah,
a lot of
so
sense. It
good.
probably was a relief, like, you just put that
It
sigh.
was, and it was like how I think the parents who hire me feel when they're like, "Oh, she can help me.
Right, yes.
She has a plan, she's done this before," right? So when I hired my first business coach, the relief I felt was just profound, and, I stayed with her for really long, like 3 years. We built this business together in many ways, just working through offers with her, and I'm so grateful to myself, really, to, like,
Yes.
invest in my business
Uh-huh.
and take those leaps. And, of course, any time you hire someone, you hire an assistant or you hire, someone to do your branding, or, any business has expenditures, and
Yeah.
those, feel so hard when you don't have the revenue coming in and you're like just trusting this is going to pay off, or I'm going to learn this, huge
But
lesson.
maybe I wonder sometimes it's like if you are investing in it, like a business coach, then you're more determined to make it work, right? I don't know. That's kind of
Yeah.
what I think I take away from some of this is that it's like if you're making that investment in yourself, then it's on you to like make the most of that.
Yeah, your ROI is, like, on you. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
right.
so that's what my coach would say, because some of her programs became really expensive, and she's like, "How can you make sure you get this investment back?" You
Yeah,
know, it's up to you to put in whatever it takes to
yeah.
break even from your investment at the very least, but then also learn something so you can 10x this. And that I don't think I've 10x my investments quite yet, but close.
Never grown. So I appreciate you sharing one of your failures because I think it's really helpful for people to hear that can happen. What would you say you're most proud of with your business?
I'm proud of the revenue that we have created in the business, and when when I first started this business, my goal was $5,000 a year because I wanted to pay for summer camp. It was like
That's
really specific because
yeah.
my husband didn't necessarily believe that the kids should go to an expensive summer camp. They went to Camp Canaret. You could interview them.
Okay.
Um, and and I was so delighted to have them go to camp. And it was a huge relief to me in the summer because it was like long days with those two boys. Like just
Imagine.
wild.
Yeah.
You have, two kids, And after one or two summers, Conejo Valley hot, we would do the pool for a while and then it was like, okay, now what am I supposed to do with these children all day?
Yes.
So
TV. That's not, yeah.
yeah, TV, and then they would be wild, and I
Right.
was so many hours. So that was the beginning, and then eventually, like, the business started to actually make money, and now it's a big part of our family's income, and we rely on it, and it makes a huge difference, and I'm really proud that I can contribute to our family and that doing it with something I love that has a huge impact on lives. It's just like win, 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 win. Yeah.
Yes. That's very inspiring and amazing. Thank you for sharing that. What is your vision for the future of Calm Mama Coaching?
Yeah, to heal the next generation in advance.
Like, oh, I love
It's
that.
yeah, it's a huge vision. I just imagine an entire generation of children that don't have to recover from their childhood. I just think about how much time and energy and money is spent in adulthood healing from our childhood wounds, and what what would that look like if an entire generation didn't have to do that work?
Mm, uh,
And I think, yeah, I was once in a yoga class at LA Fitness, weirdly enough, laying down, and I had this vision come, and it was like, heal the next generation in advance. That phrase came to me.
oh my gosh, it gives me chills.
Mm,
Like how strong it just shows you're on your path because you can like feel that and know that that's like what you're here for.
yeah. So I feel like I coach the children through the parents. That if I give you the tools to coach your girls, that they will then heal in it pre-heal, right? Like you're just going to give them so much emotional literacy and so much emotional health. And I can't be in every relationship with each child, and nor should I. That's your role.
Yeah.
Um, and so I love this work so much, and I think it's incredible and it's not just me. There's lots of parent coaches and parent educators out there doing the same work, and I feel
Yeah.
like we're all so important. Like whoever we each reach, like I'm not in competition with Dr. Becky or whoever. Like, she's doing her work, I'm doing my work. We're all just in investing in the lives of these children through their parents, and I love it.
That's amazing. I want to ask you before we get into three rapid fire questions. Do you think the Conejo Valley is a good location to start a new business?
Yeah, I think it is. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people here who want to do cool stuff and
Mhm.
do interesting things, and we don't always want to go into the city to do it, and
Mhm.
we want to eat well, and we want to have like stuff to do with our families and activities and things like that, and there's money to be spent, right? There's a level of wealth, a baseline. So there's some little bit of discretionary money here. And so I think it's a great place to start a business.
Awesome. Okay, so on to three rapid fire questions. So the
Ooh.
first one is, and this might be really hard actually, but is there the number one tip you tell parents? Is there
Hmm.
one that usually bubbles to the top?
I have a few, but I always say you always have permission to pause.
Excellent.
Hmm.
What's your favorite thing to do in the Conejo Valley?
Hike 100%. I
Do you
spend
have a
some
favorite hike?
I love China Flats. I have done that one. It's like the top of Lindero Canyon at James Place, King James Place, something like that, some street up there. It used to be much more beautiful before the fires, but it's like a mile up. It's steep, 1,000 feet incline. It's so great, and then you get up and you see this beautiful view of the valley, and it's one of my favorites. I've done it like at least 100 times. Yeah, I love hiking.
Yeah, there is no better. Like the vistas when you get to the top of these hikes are amazing. So
Yeah, lately I've been going to Charmley a lot. It's an easy one to do with littler kids because it's not super steep. It's like
mhm.
I think maybe considered Malibu, but it's on Encinal, like Mulholland, kind of back that way. And you get up, you don't have to hike that hard, and then you get to the view of the ocean, which is beautiful. And it has a ton of spring flowers. Like that's a good one, but it would be too hot in the summer. So many are too hot in the summer. So then I just go stand up paddleboard all summer.
Okay, I love that you're that active. I love that, being active no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, last question is, what piece of advice would you give to first-time entrepreneurs?
Hire a coach.
Mic drop. There you go. I love it. That is actually a perfect way to end this interview. I really, really, really appreciate all your insight and talking us through your story. What you're doing is incredible, and seriously gave me chills thinking about like changing, the next generation and helping us now doing that for our kids. So thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for taking the time. And we will share with everybody how to find you and learn more about your programs.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was Darlynn Childress, the owner of Calm Mama Coaching. To enter to win a $50 discount to a 6-week Calm Mama Coaching group parenting class, all you have to do is go like at Darlynn Childress on Instagram. That's spelled DarlynChildress, and then comment on the latest post at Conejo Valley Visionaries with your favorite takeaway from this episode. Screenshot the episode and share it on stories, tagging Darlynn Childress and Conejo Valley Visionaries to get an extra entry. Good luck. Make sure to subscribe to Conejo Valley Visionaries wherever you listen to podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And follow us at Conejo Valley Visionaries on Instagram to learn more about each guest and enter our weekly giveaways. If you want to share your visionary story on the podcast, send us a DM. We are always open to guest nominations. This episode was produced by Christina Denstead and Justin K. Sloan. Conejo Valley Visionaries is edited by Justin K. Sloan and J. Sloan Productions.